So hello America, welcome to the campsite on the honey trail of Matthew 5, 1 through 26. We left off in part 1 at Matthew 5, 6. Let's pack up camp as we turn to there in our Bibles and prepare our departure from camp back onto the honey trail. Matthew 5, 6 is identical to what we read in part 1 with Luke 6:21. So, we will begin today's hike at Matthew 5, 6, picking up our first sign of the day on the honey trail. Blessed are ye, Matthew 5, 6. Let's get here in our Bibles. Matthew 5, 6. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Oh. Technical difficulties. All right, there we go. They shall be filled. The sign states Isaiah 55, verse 1. There is also kill brackets surrounding the verse on the sign of the honey trail. So let's get to Isaiah 55, verse 1. Verse 1. Ho, every one that thirsteth, come ye to the waters. And he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Come and eat. Yeah, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Now this verse really shines light onto the Token of Appreciation Act. Since this world does not want to practice the principle of 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 5, because they have done verse 6, accomplishing verse 7 in the first chapter of the first book of Timothy. So let's go there. 1 Timothy 1, 5. 1 Timothy 1, 5. Now, the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart, and of a good conscience, and faith unfeigned. That is the goal. So let's go to verse 6. From which some having swerved have turned aside unto vain jangling. And then number 7, desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say nor whereof they affirm. Also, we find another marker of the honey trail, taking us to chapter 6 in the first book of Timothy, verse 4 and verse 20 that say. So let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 4. But if any widow have children or nephews, hold on, I'm not at the right one. All right, let's get to the right one. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 4. He is proud, knowing nothing, but dotting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, evil surmissings. Verse 5, since there is a comma in the sentence structure, daring us to take a leap of faith and search the scriptures more. Although verse 4 is describing the results of the negative action of pride, or to be proud. Plus, it is a sign to beware of if found in ourselves or other people, because we aren't doing the end of the commandment. Now, verse 5. Perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw thyself. Verse 6. But godliness with contentment is great gain. Verse 5 is a great application to try on society as a social experiment. Imagine if we, the people, got rid of the perverse argument on Capitol Hill, or got the corrupt minds of the politicians away from the donors and federal funding loopholes. Better yet, make them do their real job of serving the people by individual choice, no matter the path of life one finds themselves walking. However, the only route to godliness starts here with contentment, not the gain in a lustful way for godliness. Relax. Let it come to you. But what would society really look like if we, the people, withdrew all of ourselves from people who have all the wealth of this world? I'll tell you what, they would crave our attention like a drug of a demonic spirit. How different will this world be if we ignore all the celebrities? Would it be better? Throw up a thumbs up or your answer in the chat. After verse 6, we'll find a fork in the honey trail. One way is Proverbs 15:16, and the other way is Hebrews 13:5. Let's take the second road first with Hebrews 13:5. Hebrews 13:5. Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. If we read the next verse, 6, we'll discover more of the honey trail. So that we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper, and I will not fear what man shall do unto me. Notice, these two verses in Hebrew are in all caps. So we are to use this here in business. And who do we know that saith that they will never leave you or forsake you other than God? Impact my flies. Ignore them. They'll go away. So, it is God's business to never leave So it is God's business to never leave and/or forsake us. Absolutely correct. The honey trail will go over to Psalms 118, verse 6. One 18, verse 6. The Lord is on my side, and I will not fear. What can man do unto me? There's a question here, question mark. Then verse 7. The Lord taketh my part with them that help me. Therefore shall I see my desire upon them that hate me. In verse 8, it is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. And there you will have a front row seat to the authority of God on the good side, as used like a lure to hook a fish, like a big spoon shining in the sunlight with lots of action to attract the juicy lips of that tasty fillet. Sure is an interesting position to hold for God, knowing that you are protected the whole time. Then we'll find another marker on the honey trail at Psalms 40, verse 4. Psalms 40, verse 4. Blessed is the man that maketh the Lord his trust, and respecteth not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. Be happy. We could probably dig around here more and find another treasure, although let's head back to the fork in the honey trail and look the other way for signs. Proverbs 15:16. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble therewith. This verse here is a great concept of why we put assets in the irrevocable trust instead of our straw man person for greater protection. Because when we have a great treasure in our possession, we will covet an item rather than use the thing for a task. For instance, it's like if you had a fancy watch or car or maybe even a house. Let's say you take the watch off at a restaurant when you eat some food. The meal is so good that you're impressed and get excited and walk out, leaving your watch on the table. Hours later, you realize you forgot it. Some people may get frantic or stressed in this situation, rushing back to the last remembered footsteps you walked, or even at that point, it is a 50-50 chance you'll even get it back. Although the trust powers of the irrevocable trust combined with business credit virtually make every item that can be possessed replaceable. Worry less for sure. Let's say you had a car. It is somewhat simple to get into an auto loan with your straw man person and then notify the bank that the vehicle has been placed into the irrevocable trust with a name change on the vehicle registration by the grantor as the trustee is in use. Therefore, securing the asset into the trust person from the straw man person to end the auto loan agreement on the straw man person credit score, paid in full, because the asset is held in the trust. Plus, we don't serve these possessions. Everything is at our own service. Or I'm sorry, everything is at our service. We have to say it, we have a say in it now with the convention. So let's do that one over. Plus, we don't serve these possessions. Everything is at our service. We have a say in it now with the convention. Let's get back to the honey trail as we find ourselves at another fork in the road. The signs say Proverbs 16:8, Psalms 37:16, and 1 Timothy 6:6. Previously, we read 1 Timothy 6:6, so we'll get Proverbs before heading over to Psalms. Proverbs 16:8. Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues without right. In verse 9, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. In verse 10, a divine sentence is in the lips of the king. His mouth transgresseth not in judgment. A decision is having to be made in these verses. In my mind, I can see that a little righteousness in using 18 U.S. Code 8 with a coupon accompanied with a 2-cent check to pay for bills of mortgages, auto loans, and monthly credit card statements is much better than supplanting the national debt currency twice with the printing of more and more and more and more Federal Reserve banknotes or Federal Reserve notes, which is known to us as cash. Not to mention, the Biden administration went against the grain when it comes to the notes of 18 U.S. Code 8, without the thought of using the coupon. Although beware, the 2-cent check is very important in the financial world because without the debt, we can't have ownership in an all-credit system. So, the next marker on the honey trail will lead us over to 1 Kings 3:28. Okay. See, doesn't go back far enough. 1 Kings 3:28. First Kings 3:28. And all of Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. In the chat, write who you think the lower king is. Who has the wisdom of God? Let's read that again. And all that Israel heard of the king, and all of Israel heard of the judgment which the king had judged, and they feared the king, for they saw that the wisdom of God was in him to do judgment. So, write down the answer in the chat. Who was that king? For greater understanding, we have victory verses for this clue through the passage of the honey trail. The signs are pointing to verse 9, 11, and 12. 1 Kings 3:9. Give therefore thy servant an understanding heart to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge this thy so great a people? Question mark. Verse 11. And God said unto him, because thou hast asked this thing, and hast not asked for thyself long life, neither hast asked riches for thyself, nor hast asked the life of thy enemies, but hast asked for thyself understanding to discern judgment. And verse 12. Behold, behold, I have done accordingly to thy words. Lo, I have given thee a wise and understanding heart, so that there was none like thee before thee, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. Notice that in the last part of verse 12, neither after thee shall any arise like unto thee. Is it that no one will rise up to the wisdom of Solomon, or that no one in the time of Solomon would rise up against him with the power of wisdom that God gave to him? It really makes you think about David. At a time in history, David had an upper hand over Solomon, but did not seize the opportunity to take the life of Solomon, even though Solomon was actively chasing David to kill him. Now back to the honey trail, where the next marker, where could the next marker be? It was at the question in verse 9, taking us to Hebrews 5:14. All right, 5:14. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason have used. Let's read that again. But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. Which makes perfect sense why, if we ever find ourselves getting arrested and handling the case with our secured persons as an attorney in fact, in the fiery trials of court, that it is our own training to be able to see good and evil, plus the difference between the two, and freely exercising the establishment of religion all up in that bar member association area. Backtracking on the honey trail to the fork in the road, we'll take the path of Psalms 37:16. A little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. Verse 17. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholdeth the righteous. Now look there at this verse. Arms as in firearms? There is actually many accounts in the history of America that our forefathers dodged bullets during wars. And we'll pick up two more benchmarks of the honey trail, Psalms 10:15 and Job 38:15. We'll do Psalms 10:15 first. Ten, 15. Break thou the arm of the wicked and the evil man. Seek out his wickedness till thou found none. In verse 16, the Lord is king forever and ever. The heathen are perished out of his land. Then verse 17, Lord, thou hast heard the desire of the humble. Thou wilt prepare their heart. Thou wilt cause thy ear to hear. And verse 18 as a petition, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that the man of the earth may no more oppress. Here we will pick up Psalms 146, verse 9. Verse 9. The Lord preserveth the strangers. He relieveth the fatherless and the widow. But the way of the wicked he turneth upside down. In verse 10, the Lord shall reign forever. Even thy God, O Zion, unto all generations. Praise ye the Lord. The underlining theme I'm picking up here with the term blessing is God favors the underdog in a situation to reveal to all the people his awesome power to protect. Exodus 15:18 is the next stop on the honey trail. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. Let's do verse 19 as a reminder. For the horse of Pharaoh went in with his chariots and with his horsemen into the sea. And the Lord brought again the waters of the sea upon them. But the children of Israel went on dry land in the midst of the sea. Although, check out verse 17. Thou shalt bring them in and plant them in the mountain of thy inheritance, in the place, O Lord, which thou hast made for thee to dwell in the sanctuary, O Lord, which thy hands have established. There are some key words being used in this context of the verse, going hand in hand with the verbiage of the irrevocable trust we are using to exercise the convention for mandatory tax exemption. And inheritance is passed to the successor trustee from the grantor. More importantly, the word established, like an establishment of religion, being registered at the dock of the state with a declaration of trust and being tied into the Department of Revenue with the state through the nonprofit status of the trust after completing is past tense. Now getting over to Job 38:15 to continue the honey trail. Job 38:15. 38:15. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. This high arm reference is probably talking about a catapult in the past. Nonetheless, it is a reference to a weapon formed by mankind and God having supernatural authority over all things on earth and heaven. There are two more markers to grab here on the honey trail to carry us onward. Job 18:5 and Numbers 15:30. Job 18:5. Yeah, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. Then the honey trail jumps over to Proverbs 13:9 and Proverbs 20:20. So let's do Proverbs 13:9. Proverbs 13:9. The light of the righteous rejoiceth, but the lamp of the wicked shall be put out. And Proverbs 20:20. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness. Which brings us to a very valuable point. When the youth of this nation come to the junction in life to leave their parents' home in a healthy manner, with parents who have used their children's social security number to form an irrevocable trust for the child in the name of the child's straw man name, and whenever filing out paperwork for the kid, entering in the IRS EIN instead of the social security number so that the child is protected from all crimes while under the age of 18. Maybe we as a whole society could create a class in high school across the nation within public schools at the senior grade level to make sure that no children is left behind. In this bright new future of the economic plan that the Token of Appreciation Act will do for the people to secure future generations. Now back to the honey trail. propelling us into the future with Matthew 15:4 and a reminder from Jesus Christ. (15:4) For God commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. Going back to the fork on the honey trail with Numbers 15:30. (15:30). But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people. The words the Bible gives here is willfully and destroyed. Let's do verse 31. Because he hath despised the words of the Lord, and hath broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off. His iniquity shall be upon him. Here on the passage wall of the honey trail is a symbol and a sign. First is the word person. All right, puppy. First is the word person. Next is Numbers 30:15. Look at that there. A reversal in the numbers. 15:30 and 30:15. Boys and girls, we must be hot on the honey trail. Let's get after that honey. Numbers 30:15. Verse 30:15. But if he shall anyways make them void after that he hath heard them, then he shall bear her iniquity. For greater understanding, verse 16. These are the statutes which the Lord commanded Moses between a man and his wife, between the father and his daughter, being yet in her youth in her father's house. Well, we have gathered up most of the Easter eggs in this part of the maze on the honey trail. So we'll head back to the previous fork in the road, to the first book of Timothy, chapter 6, verse 20. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings, and oppositions of science falsely so called. Verse 21. Which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Grace be with thee. Amen. Flies behind enemy lines. Now hold up here a second. Is Paul writing the first book to Timothy as an integrated auxiliary to a convention? Look closely at verse 20. Keep that which is committed to thy trust. Have these religious organizations in the form of an irrevocable trust been around and in operation with mandatory tax exemption for centuries? And the new generations are taught to hate these tools and instruments of true American freedoms through using our constitutional rights. It really gets you thinking. There are some more clues to the next marker of the honey trail. We have 1 Timothy 1:16 and verse 19. Also, there is 2 Timothy 2:18. We'll do 1 Timothy 1:16. Howbeit, for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Jesus might shew forth all longsuffering, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting. Here, the honey trail turns to Acts 13:39. And by him all that believe are justified from all things, from which ye could not be justified by the law of Moses. This hopefully will shed light onto the criminal court topic. Jumping back onto the honey trail with Isaiah 53:11. He shall see of the travail of his soul and shall be satisfied. Hold up a second. We covered this, Isaiah 53:11, in part 1 of this adventure through the Bible study. Go check out that video if you have any further questions or thoughts. How about we do 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 19. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 19. Holding faith and a good conscience, which some having put away concerning faith have made shipwreck. Now let's try 2 Timothy 2:18. 2:18. Who concerning the truth have erred, saying that the resurrection is past already, and overthrow the faith of some. Let's search around here a little more for clues to find the way through the honey trail. Verse 19. Nevertheless, the foundation of God stands sure, having this seal: the Lord knoweth them that are his. And let every one that nameth the name of Christ depart from iniquity. Verse 20. But in a great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. And yet again, we have another fork in the road with two paths on the honey trail. Romans 9:21 and 1 Timothy 3:15. Yet let's get verse 21 of this second chapter of the book of the first book of Timothy. I'm sorry, of the second book of Timothy. So we're going to do number 2 Timothy 2:21. If a man therefore purge himself from these, which we previously spoke in verse 20, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified, and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. This verse right here really reminds me of the bicycle trip I did from Florida to Louisiana, where I was gifted with a bus ticket to Colorado. I'll have to do another video covering that awesome adventure. So let's get over to Romans 9:21. Romans 9:21. Hath not the potter power over the clay, of the same lump to make one vessel into honor and another into dishonor? Question mark. And then 1 Timothy 3:15. 1 Timothy 3:15. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. Verse 16 is a great place to camp on the honey trail. And without controversy, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifested in the flesh, justified in the spirit, seen of angels, preached unto the Gentiles, believed on in the world, received up into glory. He was revealed. I'm going to set up camp here. We'll begin part 3 of the journey at Matthew 5:7. Wow. Look at all the riches we have gathered in God's word out of just one Bible verse. And remember, if you enjoy this style of Bible study, share with your friends and subscribe. It takes 50 subscribers to do a live Bible study, so we can all interact together. Adios, ciao, bon voyage. He leadeth me by the still waters.